Well, the Wing Chun on-guard position, or sometimes known as a pre-fighting posture by some Chinese masters, is actually quite simple. Now, there's an entire theory and a methodology behind why we stand this way, which is perhaps beyond the scope of this video, but most people just want to learn the basics, so that's what we're going to start with. In the standard Wing Chun way, we normally just stand in a position which we call man sao, wu sao. Basically, the front hand is man sao, which means asking hand, and the rear hand is wu sao. What's very important to realize is that it's just a pre-fighting posture, so it's very flexible thing. It's not a rigid position. Your hands, when you're fighting, should be able to move. You shouldn't be standing here in any kind of rigid posture anyway. When we're talking about fighting, we're not talking about fixed positions. We're talking about movement. So it's very important not to get kind of stuck into the feeling of trying to look like a statue. Now, there's a real easy way to kind of figure out where to put your hands, especially for beginners. So what I like to teach is I like to tell my students to put their hands here, basically right in the middle of their solar plexus, all right, like this. Then to put the other hand here like that. Then leave this one here, put this hand there like that. And then you're going to take your backhand and you're going to point it slightly upwards and take your front fingers and point it to the nose of your opponent. And this is probably one of the easiest ways to get into what we call man sao, wu sao. All right. If you notice, my wu sao hand is not fully articulated like this. That's because the fully articulated wu sao is only necessary in chi sao practice. When your opponent is standing far away from you, it makes absolutely no sense to fully articulate your wu sao other than to make it look prettier. But this actually doesn't help you function any better in fighting. In fact, if you look at photos of the late great Grandmaster Yip Man, you'll actually see that his wu sao hand is quite relaxed in the pre-fighting position. And that's because when we're fighting or when we're about to fight, our main idea in Wing Chun is to launch a punch. So if my hand is in this position, it's actually already preset to go in and punch. If my hand is this way, I actually have to turn it down before I can launch a straight punch. So that's why keeping your hand this way here allows you to switch over the wrist easier. It allows you to set up other techniques much better in Wing Chun. And it's basically the same position as your chain punch or your standard punching techniques in Wing Chun. So that's why in the pre-fighting position or the on-guard position, you can have a more relaxed wu sao. I'll talk in another video about the articulated wu sao, which is more important in chi sao training. Okay, this is the standard classical Wing Chun way of doing it. In self-defense situations, you can even modify it and use a kind of non-classical guard, which is basically just a man sao wu sao in disguise from the frontal stance, from the advancing stance. Depending on the situation, there are a number of different ways of doing it.